There's so many stories.
I'm sure there's a few that you can pull if you remember them.
I'm hoping they'll come up naturally.
I think there'll be a few. A few lads, don't worry, a few lads asked me some questions as well.
A few lads from the history books.
From the history books, from the archives. They asked me. Sonny got involved.
Oh, yeah? Sonny Bum?
Yeah.
I bet he asked you about the full moon. Not a great story, but a mental image that will live in me forevermore. His ass pressed against the window when the bus was pulling out.
I didn't know that one. And I've seen what you've done here. I just realised.
That's
Sports
left-handed mug. I've got my water bottle as well. I've got this in here.
You're kind of blind at that, aren't you? Yeah. Proper steeled up. Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where we talk to people from all walks of life, artists, educators, entrepreneurs and adventurers, to explore the stories and lessons that can help you understand yourself, others, and create meaningful change in your own life. This week on Crossing the Pond, we're joined by Andrew Broadbent, whose journey began in England before taking a leap of faith to the United States in the mid-1990s. What started as a young coach chasing an opportunity abroad evolved into a career of leadership as Andrew went on to become a regional manager with UK Elite Soccer, helping guide and support thousands of young coaches as they embarked on journeys remarkably similar to his own. Andrew reflects on the responsibility that comes with leadership, the lessons learned from managing himself as a young man far from home, and how those experiences shaped the way he mentored the next generation. Now, decades later, life has come full circle as he watches his own two sons reach the age he was when he first packed his bags and set off into the unknown. Well, I'll go all the way back to the beginning, Broads. Was US ever the plan? You went to Staff's Uni?
As it's now called University of Staffordshire. I didn't
get in there, you know.
Oh, no.
Didn't get enough UCAS points to get in.
Yeah, University of Staffs was definitely a game changer for me. And in answer to your question, no, never once did I think about coming to the US, and it wasn't on my radar at all as a college kid.
Was there anyone ahead of you, like who'd gone to come over here, or were you even in were you even in sport at school? Was it a sport thing you did?
It was, yeah. I did sport and world politics was my degree.
That's a belter.
It was, and I hadn't. I was aware I wanted a career in sport or sports of some description. Had no idea where that was heading. Completely fell into the US by accident by way of my personal tutor at Staffs was a lady called Lorraine Kale, and Lorraine had gone to Loughborough with Ropesy. So Ropesy was the link, and my second to last year at Staff's Uni, I came out here just for the summer, bummed around, did a few camps, wasn't affiliated with anyone, didn't have a visa, but got to know Ropesy. And then from there, the UK Elite thing really came around.
Yeah. So were you coaching at home at all, part of the course? Because obviously you play footy as a kid and as you go through, right, a teenager into like a young adult. But was coaching something that was on the radar at all as part of the course or as part of anything?
Yeah. So we did do it as part of our course. There was one of the modules at university, which was, sports coaching. It was something I endured rather than enjoyed, and didn't ever see myself doing that until I started playing footy for Stevenage Borough, and part of the deal was to coach within the youth academy as it was then. And that was, I didn't really get bitten by the coaching bug until I met a guy called Paul Fairclough. I don't know if you know the name, but he's a bit of a non-league conference
guru.
Used to manage the England non-league team. Anyway, he was the manager at Stevenage Borough at the time, and he was the one who put me through my FA prelim, FA prep badge.
I remember that now.
And full badge with Stevenage Borough. So Fairclough was the one who got me into coaching, got me bitten by the bug. And then Ropesy really was the catalyst for getting over here and being able to act on it.
So you've been doing this for a long time now. You've still got more hair than me.
Barely.
You're hanging on a little bit more than me, but you've been coaching for a long time, involved in the coaching. What did the grassroots stuff early doors at home teach you about people as much as it taught you about football? I mean, listen, you don't get the bug straight away for coaching, but like, what does it teach you about people, younger people, older people, everyone around you when you're involved in it as a youngster?
Yeah. So I think the first time I was serious about coaching was 1994, probably 1993. So I was 20. And what it taught me about people was that even though the majority of people don't want to or aren't able to do this for a living, this being play football, soccer, but they still take it very seriously. So they're very invested in their sport, whatever it might be, and they are keen for it to be a big part of their life, whether they want to pursue it as a career, whether it's just a passing interest, or whether it is just part of their life's journey. And I think too many people see a sporting endeavor as it's got to get somewhere. I have learned that the journey itself is what's getting you where you're going. So what you learn from your sport by playing it is far more important than where that takes you.
So even in the academy there, like were the lads just in Stevenage Borough in the academy that were just there because they were enjoying it, or any stuff that you did at home where it was there for the love of the game or just enjoying it? Or was everyone on a track?
Well, so yeah,
because you're in an academy,
the Academy Centre of Excellence, and Stevenage, although a conference club at the time, they were a higher category of academy. So we played against the QPRs, the West Hams,
right.
And I had the under 10 boys. So those kids were serious, and yes, they enjoyed it and had fun. But those kids at that time were, I'm going to make it. Kids.
What are parents like at that time? As mental?
Not as mental, yeah, but that generation was very much, and I think Stevenage was one of the first clubs to do this, where it was parents are not allowed to say anything or be involved. So it was 18 car doors open, 18 kids run out, 18 cars all closed, and then I'm dealing with the kids. So very surprisingly little involvement with the parents.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
When did you realise that coaching's more about the communication and relationships and just what you know about football? Because again, early on, right, you won't have had you've done your prelim. Your prelim's a bit basic, but it's challenging, but it's a bit basic. But what do you learn early on about relationships and communication with players or parents or whoever it is when you talk about coaching?
So I actually wrote that down, that there's very few coaching courses, or there certainly was when I did them, that dealt with communication or relationship. All of them are X's and O's, tactics, technique, etc. And I therefore just assumed and guessed that was what coaching was. When I'm stepping on the field to do my first session, I'm worried about what I'm going to do, not how I'm going to come across. And it took me, I'm going to say 10, 15 years of coaching to realize it's much less about what's on the piece of paper and much more about the latter. So I think in answer to your question, it took me far too long to realize that. Like most lessons, the longer they take to learn, the longer they stick, probably.
Yeah. So 95, you come over here?
Living here 95, yeah.
So full-time 95, a little bit in the middle. What was your first real impression of the US when you get here? Like that first summer when you're jollying around, nodding about, doing camps and that, what's it like?
So
because you're a cheeky chappy as well, Broad. So let's not beat around the bush here. Like I'm sure it was a laugh.
It was definitely a laugh, and there was far fewer restrictions on behaviour in the early 90s than there are now. Don't get me wrong, and it was no holds barred at times, no question. But in answer to your question, my first impression, landing here in central New Jersey was actually that it's not that different to back home. Because you dropped into suburbia and you're working with, for the most part, pretty well-off families in suburbia. My first impression was, it's not as different as I expected it to be. I'm thinking Big Apple, Statue of Liberty, and so on and so forth. But then very quickly you realize the biggest difference is the people, because everyone seems to be almost a caricature of an English version of them. So everyone's bigger, bolder, brasher, or crazier, or anything. Everyone is exaggerated. And that was probably the thing that stood out to me straight away was, holy shit, these people are different,
Yeah.
Although the environment's not that different.
You watch like The Simpsons and then you come over and go, there's Homer Simpson there. There's Barney Gumble over there. There's or like comparing people to EastEnders, like the American version of Dirty Dan.
Everyone is, like I say, almost like everyone's a caricature, and you're like, wow, this could be fun,
Yeah. But everyone's nice though, aren't they? For the most part.
It's not only nice, but I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned over here is that professional social demeanor. You know, everyone is personable, everyone is presentable, everyone puts their best foot forward. And I find, you know, I go back to England quite a lot, and you can tell people who have worked in the US because of the way they carry themselves. And I think that's probably one of the biggest and most pleasant changes about myself is I've learned how to be that person, which your average English kid is not.
Yeah. Yeah, there's levels, isn't there? When to do it, when to turn it on and be proper, and then when to just be an absolute. You're allowed to be a balloon, but not all the time.
Yeah.
You want to go into any of these stories, or
if they come up? Yes. For those people listening, so when it comes to the stories and the UK elite stories in particular, I think of, you know, we've probably had over the years 3,500 to 4,000 employees came over on immigrant visas to the US. And every single cohort, every single generation, yourself included, has top 10 stories. So if you think about how many there are, and I remember a lot of them. And
what about you though, early on? Like things that have happened to you with coaching. Like we hear the stories about lads going like missing a turn off and ending 50 miles away from where they're supposed to go, or going out in New York and getting the pocket slashed and like falling asleep on some steps and getting the pocket slashed and all the money taken out the pockets. Or that was Kieran Bradby, by the way. I don't know, he listens to a couple, so and he knows you, so he'll definitely listen to this one.
Yeah.
But like any stories like that happened to you early on, like, or just fun nights out?
A lot of fun nights out.
Was Fiddlestick still there when you were in the city?
It wasn't really on the scene.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Everyone, you know, every generation, ours included, had their little go-tos. You know, for us, when we first came, it was Texas, Arizona, and Hoboken. That was the go-to.
Oh, that's still going, yeah.
That was just emerging, Scotland Yard and so on and so forth, and the Parlour, etc. And obviously Paul's place. But, you know, these places all came around and the stories came with them. But for us, when we first came, because it was so formative at that point, it wasn't like you were walking into a situation that you could abuse. You were coming out and you had to find, this is where we go. This is how we live. How do I get a house? How do I buy a car? If I can't buy a car, who can I bum a ride off? You know, so it was all the entertainment, as it were, came from learning. So learning how to do, what to do, and how to run a camp. And, you know, there was no, here's a handbook on filling up with gas and servicing a car. There's no curriculum to follow. It was, here's a T-shirt, roll your shorts up, get your suntan lotion on, and
get on with it.
See what happens. And if you get to Friday, here's a few $100, get yourself down LBI, you know, and that literally was it, you know.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing when we first came. There was nothing. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't a house or a car or anything.
I always think, I don't even think about that sometimes. Like there was no handbook for you, was there?
No.
Like we got orientation. We got told how to drive a car. We got told all this stuff. We never had that. It was all pretty easy for us, in fairness.
Which was one of the reasons we evolved like that, was because
we don't want this happening.
When we came out, we were like, we got by on personality, on intelligence, and on
luck,
wits and balls, you know, and luck, of course, But we knew that eventually that the quality of people we're bringing out aren't going to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to be a Ropesy Taffo Mick Jonesy.
Not when you bring in so many people, because it's different when you bring in 20 out maybe, or 15 or 20, but when you start bringing the big numbers out, I mean, and we're definitely getting into it, I'm telling you right now, but like there is some whoppers in there that need guidance and need helping out. But what do you think was, you know, what helped the British lads and the Irish lads connect so strongly with the American youth system? Why did it work so well? Out with the accent.
Well, the accent was part of it 30-something years ago. But I honestly think that we, or this country, provided a platform for them to succeed that they weren't offered or allowed back home.
Yeah.
You know, because back home at that time, it was, who did you play for? You know, who do you know? We'll give you a coaching job. And if you weren't Division 1 player, and if someone didn't have a Panini sticker of you, you weren't getting a coaching job. So over here, you were afforded an opportunity that you couldn't get elsewhere. And it's interesting now at Steel Sports, I work in a baseball capacity as well. And you see a similarity in baseball, you know. whether someone is a good or a bad coach is secondary to whether they've, played in the MLB. And it's a tough fight to fight, because we all know good coaches who couldn't play for a lick, and we all know the opposite.
Yeah, players who are good but can't coach. Yeah, exactly. So you've kind of seen this, not from the very beginning, but you did come in on one of the lower floors, so to speak, and you've seen it grow. When did UK Elite stop feeling like a little ragtag coaching outfit and turned into something like the serious national organisation that it did become? Certainly regional, and then eventually national.
Yeah, so I think very quickly it became serious, but not very quickly it became national. So when you have, a mixed smoothie in the driving seat, that adds a serious element to it, and we had very good people from day one, people who and people who are still around nowadays. So we knew that we had good people. We knew we had the right people on the bus. We knew we could make a success of it, if we wanted to. And we'd all got to the point where we decided we did want to, because what are the alternatives? So we wanted to make it serious. We wanted to make it a genuine career opportunity, and we knew we could. In terms of national, I don't think it really dawned on us that we could go coast to coast until the Chevy Tour was one of those catalysts, which you were part of, I think.
Missed that. I just missed. I think I'd moved by then.
You did the Midwest High School.
The Midwest was like the pioneer. We got halfway, and then it was like,
So the Midwest High School leading to Chevy, both TAFisms. And then beyond that, when we literally up sticks and took the whole operation to Seattle with Ewan Robson, and all of a sudden then instead of getting in the car and going to North Plainfield, you're getting on a plane and going 3,000 miles across the country and running an orientation over there. So it wasn't a light bulb moment where it just comes on. It was a gradual progression. But in terms of serious career, we knew it was do it or find something else to do. And we chose to do it.
Became sustainable for you to be here as well.
I mean, yes, ultimately it did, but there was years early on where we, put as much into the business as we took out of it, and more,
Yeah, true.
Ropesy, Mick, Taff, early days were paying to do their jobs, not getting paid.
And working in the deli.
Making sandwiches,
Was building people just as important as building the business?
I think depends who you ask. But for me, that's always been the reason, and that's always been paramount, because I think it's much easier to make the business work if you've got the right people than make the people work if you've got the right business. So for me, it's always been about people. It's always been about the Gary Adaires, the Bob Gibsons of this world, and where they will end up, than it has been about what will UK Elite do or what will Steel Sports do. Because I honestly believe that if you get good people and you help them grow, they're not all going to stay forever, but that's going to represent the quality of your business.
100%, yeah. I agree with you. You hire the people, not the job. And you did a good job. I mean, I'm speaking personally, you did a good job of developing us when we came over, because I was soppy as a sack when I first came over.
I think there's, not using you as the only example, there's, like I said, 3,500 of them.
Yeah.
I don't think we are responsible for anyone's success, but we have played a part in everyone's journey.
100%.
And I think, people will succeed if they're so motivated to do, and people have succeeded off their own back, but I do also think that what they did with UK Elite, Steel Sports, etc., has accelerated that development and or has taught them something that they otherwise wouldn't have learned.
When you're getting all these lads over, English and Irish coaches, British coaches, coming to the US for the first time, do you see parts of your younger self in them, good and bad? And is there any particular people that you can pull out early on that you're like, all right, yeah, I kind of did that as well, so maybe I'll help him out a little bit, or he'll do something. I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of did that. So
yeah, but I think between all of the directors of UK Elite, we saw in probably almost everyone a little part of ourselves, whether that was a foolishness or a seriousness or a potential or a complete lack of potential. We had a collective experience between the 6-7 of us that we could tap into that regardless of who got off the plane. And our job in that was to accelerate their experience, accelerate their development using what we knew about ourselves.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the curriculum, the development models, the handbooks, etc. That we knew that if we're bringing 100 coaches over, yeah, I don't have to worry about number one. I have to worry about Arthur Vallely at number 100, because
he was a question.
He was, yeah.
It
should be
the
a question.
And you know what? I'm going to throw it out there now because you know what? It's time. And the question is from Ralph C. It just said Arthur Vallely discuss.
So I think Arthur Vallely,
which UK elite director you're going to compare him to?
None. Arthur Vallely had qualities that I've seldom seen in any individual. I think Arthur Vallely still remains, of the 4,000 coaches we employed, the only one who came out sober, fell off the wagon, got engaged, split up with his missus, had a restraining order taken against him, was fired, was evicted from his house, and then deported from the country in, I'm going to say, a 12-week period.
And broke back into his house to do his washing.
Strictly speaking, the garage he was living, but you're right with the washing. So, I mean, you talk about...
I'd like to think he's a captain of industry somewhere now.
He could be anywhere from in prison to a CEO right now. And if you're listening, Arthur, you are still talked about all these years later.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about whoppers, and he's a top 10 for sure.
All right. So on that then, what responsibility did you feel towards making it work for the lads who came over? Especially those lads who were good lads who were trying to make a go of it. I think of people like Grubber. I think of people like, to be fair, I also think about people like Lynett, who was here for years. Was the responsibility of you boys to sort of push those lads and get them in the right spots and, not make an example of them, but just look after them and make sure they were on the right track? Because you could see something. Obviously there's other lads, Bob and Dino are doing what they're doing, and there's lads back home doing what they're doing.
I think Jason Grubb is a perfect example of someone who was going to succeed because how driven they are, but someone who UK Elite helped along the way. I remember reading his resume, and it said he was a water boy for his local Sunday team. That was one of his listed skills. And he'll tell you about it now. And, now he's working professionally and with the national setup. Talk about it, I'm sure UK Elite played a part in him getting to where he is now, but I'm also sure he would have succeeded because he's Jason Grubb. And I think in answer to your question, I probably shouldered the burden of responsibility more so than I should have, because when someone stepped off the plane and I saw potential in them, I felt duty bound to have that person succeed. And it wasn't until later in life that I took a bit of that pressure off myself. And rather than having this person succeed or making this person succeed, hopefully I taught them how they could succeed themselves. And I think that was quite a key moment, is you go from trying to control their success to showing them how to succeed themselves. And I think when you do that, and when you're talking about the numbers we had, it's imperative, because you can't take everyone off the plane and drop them into a national role. They have to do it themselves. And if I can show them, then that's A, much better for them, but B, also much less of a burden for me. Because I every time someone got off the plane, I thought, how is this person going to be the next director of UK Elite's Region X? Or
Yeah. Plus Grubber can now wash 2 socks at the same time.
That's what I've heard. I haven't seen him. Yeah,
it's not been confirmed, but I think there's a chance that he can do it now. What were the biggest challenges for you? Because there were challenges with this as well, and we all know it's documented by a lot of lads who'll probably listen and watch this. But what was the biggest challenge in scaling something like UK Elite across the US? You think of the sheer geography of Morristown, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Seattle, Texas for a moment, right? You had the Chevy tour going down the West Coast. You had all the Midwest stuff going on. You had other little pockets here and there where people were just, doing little bits for UK Elite. Sheer geography, managing the staff we've kind of talked about, but also the visas as well.
So they were and probably always have been the 2 biggest challenges. One was the immigration problem, because we could attract good quality staff from the UK, but we couldn't always get them visas, and certainly long-term visas, which is one of the draws of people coming out here, as you know. So immigration started out difficult, but not impossible. Towards the end, became impossible. But then the second biggest challenge when you're talking about scaling is the bottom 10 to 15% of coaches on your list. And how can you either improve them or hide them? Like I say, you never worry about the Gary Adaires and the Bob Gibsons of this world, but you do worry about the Arthur Vallalis. And it's the 80-20 rule, where you spend 80% of your time managing 20% of the people. And that's okay if everyone's in New Jersey, but it's very tough when at one point we were working in 20 states. And it's still the same 6 to 8 people who are managing it.
How does that hit you and the rest of the staff when things like that happen? Obviously, how did you as a group manage that? Because I like you talk about the 80-20 rule there, like there were good lads that arguably left because they didn't feel like they were getting something, or got their heads turned by something else. And I'll hold my hand up and say I was one of those people. But like, how do you manage things like that when it's like, fuck's sake, we've got this guy over here who's like eating grass on the pitch, like basically like one of the kids, and you've got these lads over here who are doing all right, but we're like stretched, and you do have to look after that person, or, when the visas don't come in. Because I do remember that night when that one night was Friday night. Ironically enough, it was Ralphie's leaving due to go to Seattle. I think it was 2016, I want to say.
I remember it
like
well.
that night must have, like, what do you do there where you've got lads who are just like, what am I doing here now?
And we've had nights where, I've got the bus booked and I'm picking up 56 people from the airport and 40 get on the plane. That leaves me 16 coaches short starting Monday, So the answer is, what can you do? You have to develop a pretty thick skin quite quickly, and you have to assume that people have the intelligence to know it's not Broady's fault, it's immigration naturalization. But in answer to your question, in terms of the challenges, it's almost impossible. You can't, we work in a service industry, we still do now. And the irony of a service industry is the people who are best at their jobs have the least contact with the customer. And as such, if you don't have your systems, if you don't have it set up just so, there's going to be a disconnect between top and bottom, and the people delivering the service aren't going to be the experienced ones to be able to do it. So it's an impossible job, I think, is the answer to your question.
Yeah, true.
At our height, we probably had, I think, 260 to 270 staff, seasonal staff coming out. And my job was to manage all of them. And that was, I'm going to say, impossible.
Yeah. How do you manage, how do you process that emotionally? Like, because you were a personable character. Like, there's a lot of lads, when I said, literally,
what's happened?
You
devolved.
I'm thinking about all right, I'm using it past tense because most of the lads who I know aren't working here anymore. So at the time you were, I'm sure you are now, Broad, obviously. But like, you build up these relationships with these people, and then all of a sudden, through no fault of your own, but then they're going, but they're gone because of the visa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you process that from an emotional standpoint yourself? Like, do you literally go like thick skin, or do you struggle with it a little bit?
Hugely struggled, especially the first few times it happened.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when I was not relatively new to managing people, I took it as my responsibility that they succeeded. Now, firstly, you learn that they have the biggest role in that, which deflects some of that blame. But secondly, once you've done it long enough and you've seen it happen often enough, you have to trust that down the road, they're not going to blame Broady that their visa didn't come through.
Yeah.
They're not going to blame Broady that there wasn't a full-time job for me. They're going to understand the situation, but whilst it's tough day one, down the road, they'll still look you up and, they'll still say, hey, Broady, I appreciate what you did. Can I have a reference? I'm looking for a job. And I still have, there's very, very few, if any, staff that I can remember who I'm not on speaking terms with. And I think that's a credit to the way we organized it, and a credit to their maturity in dealing with at times tough situations.
Yeah. And to be fair, like the lads, like you said before, the lads who are going to be successful are going to be successful no matter what. It's a bump in the road not getting a visa. And at the time, yeah, it's mortifying. But if they're motivated and they're on it, they're going to find a way anyway. And a lot of those lads did, didn't they? I mean, even those lads that I'm thinking about from 2016, the top lads or the good lads found their way eventually anyway, didn't they? I mean,
Exactly.
and the lads have arguably gone into different roles that have probably benefited them a little bit more.
You can name 10 people who have been on your pod who I would love to have kept within our system, but fate didn't allow it or circumstance didn't allow it. And every one of those has gone on to crush their respective role and, their future. And that's testament to them. And like I say, I like to think we helped along the way, but I still regret not being able to keep hold of more people. But, that's life.
Exactly. That's just life, isn't it? So your role definitely, as long as I've known you anyway, it's been much more of a overseeing role, a broader role than just coaching. How's your definition of leadership evolved over, call it the last 20 years, 25 years?
When I first came out and became a manager, define that. But when you are a manager or a boss, you first see it, then I think you look at the role as top down. And I certainly thought, right, I have to control things from top down. But I think the older and wiser you get, for me, leadership is sitting right in the middle of the whole thing and permeating out, So I don't look at things, as a structure top down. I tell you what to do, that service leadership, militaristic concept. I very much see leaders as people who sit in the middle of organizations and radiate out and can impact more people. And I spend a huge amount of my time traveling now. One of the reasons is because when you work in a people industry, you have to inspire the people and you have to be getting your hands dirty with them and doing work that they deem important and that you can show them that you can do. So for me, the ivory tower, it's never really been a factor for me, but it's always been on my shoulder. But for me, that's the change has gone from top down to probably bottom up.
What have you sacrificed to build the career you've built now, if you think about it?
I don't know, really. I never know if it's really a sacrifice because I would have to do something for a living. But
you do put a lot, this industry in general, any sort of service industry, but particularly football or sports, it takes a lot out of you, doesn't it? You have to put a lot in the time. It's anti-social hours.
It's evenings and weekends, and then when you get good at your job, it's daytimes as well. So you've sacrificed probably my hairline, but also, you consider the amount of time you spend away from your family. But I also weigh that up against the fact that I've always been able to hold flexible hours and get back if I need to. And I genuinely look at other careers I could have done, all of which would have eaten into my time. But for me, the reason we succeed at our jobs is because we're passionate about them. And therefore, we are more willing to work hard to be successful at them. So you can say time, you can say family time, you can say, the stress, but I would rather do that in an industry I'm passionate about than do it in a 9-to-5 job that I couldn't give a shit about. But I think the other one, as well, is one of the things I miss most about the UK on the Crossing the Pond theme is playing footy back home, like non-league footy. And, I came over here at such a young age that I definitely feel like I missed that, that local footy scene that is so valuable to me growing up and it would have been to me as a mid-20s.
Would you have been a non-league player by now?
I would say a non-league journeyman would probably be my role.
One club every year. So, all right, it's a bit of a giveaway. You've got the bright pink water jug and you've brand placement for me over here as well, right? So UK Elite got acquired by Steel Sports in 2013. Yeah. Did people, I know you can't speak for everybody, but did you or people around you feel like they were giving something away that you'd worked so hard to build, or was it a new opportunity? What did it give you, a new lease on things?
So it was absolutely both.
Okay. Depending on who you speak to, or...
And also depending on my maturity. So I can only speak to myself. So when we sold UK Elite, we knew the industry was changing. We knew we had to do something because the immigration model, the scaling wasn't, long term. So we knew we had to do something, but at the same time, you do have an ego, and it is tied up in a business that you've spent so many years building. And when we sold in 13, we didn't change the brand. We remained UK Elite outward looking in for quite a long time. And it was because we were quite stubborn in making sure we kept that, because we considered the name we had built to be probably more important than it ended up being. But it was that was a very tough time getting your head around it, because you knew you had to do something, but you were worried about giving up your identity. And probably we should have trusted ourselves a little more. The personalities who were involved were always going to push themselves to the front of some pack.
Yeah.
And whether that was as UK Elite or Steel Sports, in my instance, it is irrelevant, because you've got some big names, big personalities, and intelligent people. So we were going to succeed to the earlier point, but it was definitely a tough time.
It's interesting. I didn't even think about 2013 because, again, I didn't realize you kept the brand like that for so long.
We originally sold 75% of the company, and then the 25% later on. So it did take a number of years to vest, but like I say, it was weird more than anything.
Take away the immigration. What shifts have you seen? And there obviously has been, but what shifts have you seen in this industry over the past 30 years, give or take, right, since you first came over?
The biggest shift, not so as you know it listening to us two, is the move away from expats coaching. Whilst they're still a big factor, they're not a determining factor, which it was when I first came out here. I think the other pleasant surprise, I think, is the level of coaching. I think the level of coaching in the US is very strong. It's easy to say, well, what about Arthur Vallely? But there's more good coaches than bad. And the demands placed on those coaches in terms of licensing and certification has made the US soccer culture stronger.
I think, do you put that down? You tell me what you think on this one. There's a lot of lads now that I've coached who are now in their late 20s, and they're coaching now and they've had a little bit of a better grounding 10, 15 years down the line. And now they're starting to come through, either graduate from school and see coaching as a career, and they're getting into it now, but they've already got somewhat of a framework. Whereas maybe the lads, the bulk of the coaches when we first came over, they didn't have that grounding.
Definitely didn't. And I'm sure that's a big part of it.
So you don't have to go abroad anymore to get lads.
Exactly. Yeah. And interestingly enough, 3 months ago, our final immigrant staff who was on an O visa got their green card. So we are 31 years reliant on visas. And as of 3 months ago, the first time we've ever been entirely domestic. So I think that what you're talking about, that legacy of coaching, or that cultural legacy, is as a result of the expats who came before. But I think the move away from that is positive. Still a long way to go, but positive in the US. And then the other thing in terms of evolution of footy over here, which isn't as refreshing, is it's definitely gone from being fun and enjoyment to being business. Whatever level you're playing at, there's a transactional element to footy over here that, I think we'll always struggle to get away from, which, it's a bit depressing, is too strong a word, but it's.
What was the law that got passed the other week down in Alabama or something like that? Oh, I'd have to look it up. It's killing me on my phone. I've absolutely ballsed up my research here. But there was a law that related to that, and it was, ironically enough, it was like private equity coming into youth sports.
I'm not sure if it's been passed or not yet, but there's a law on state to play, and it's tied up in the private equity bill, which I think Senator Booker's part of. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, because I worry that the game, or youth sports in general, can become a bit soulless the more money that's involved. One of the attractions of youth sports in the US is the amount of money they put into the game and infrastructure. By the same token, that can take away from the soul of it a little bit.
Yeah, no, true. All right. So you've spent years helping people like me arrive in America, early 20s. Your lads are now getting to that age So has that changed the way that you reflect on the younger lads over the years that have been over? Because your boys now are getting to that age where, like, because your eldest is what?
So my two are 21 and 23.
So I was 22 when I first came over here. And you think Grubber was what? 18?
18, yeah. And I was 20. So the answer to the question is yes, period. I can't overstate enough how being a parent or becoming a dad has impacted the way A, I manage staff and run my business, and B, how I coached on the field. Because to your earlier question on when did you realize communication was so important, it was probably around about 23 years ago when my first kid was born, 22 years ago when he started talking. So I honestly think being a parent has made me a better coach, has made me a better manager, better leader, trite phrase, but it's definitely opened my eyes, and it would definitely impact, what I advise them to do, knowing what I know about.
I was going to say, like, when you look at their lads now, do you realize how young you were when you first came over?
No.
And the responsibility that you had, or like, sort of shackles or anything else? You think about your lads now coming over here, like, going to England on their own now with zero sort of oversight,
Yeah.
Does it make you think about how young you actually were when you come?
I do. And this is, an ironic twist on parenting, because I know how much coming here at a relatively young age taught me about life. And I know how much I benefited from travel and the independence that comes with it. Therefore, I have to assume it will do the same for my boys. But I also worry about sending your kid off into the yonder, but I am very fortunate in terms of both of my kids have that independent streak, and me and Deb both raised our kids to be A, very independent, and B, very curious regarding travel.
Yeah.
And I see every single day how positive an impact their travel has had on them. And it rather than it being scary or nervous, it's actually reassuring, because I see the good it's done me. I see the good it's doing them. And whilst it's hard work to say, yeah, off you go to Scotland for New Year's Eve, Aiden, I know he comes back and he's buzzing with the experience and he's grown because of it. So, yeah, that's, the quandary of being a parent, I guess.
Has becoming a dad changed the way you think about pressure, ambition, identity in young lads? Because it's one thing when you're coaching kids, you're aware of it. Like, I'm the same with teaching, and you're aware of certain things, and you're trained in how to deal with kids in a certain way, and you're very aware of what's out there social media wise and everything else that kids are consuming. But now you're a father, do you see it more? Is it magnified more to you because you're in it?
So I think it should be.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is well aware of that. You think of yourself as kind of like a little bit more old school as a parent. And hey, when I was a lad, this was what shaped me. So I try not to dwell too much on that as a concept. And maybe I try and oversimplify parenting a bit too much. But I'd like to think that their response to pressure is learned through their 21 years or 23 years that they've had in the world and the experiences they've had. Therefore, I have to trust that they can deal with that pressure. And I also have to trust that it can't be that different to when I was 23. The awareness of it is. So maybe we just know more and think more about shit like that. But maybe it's not that different than 20 years ago.
Do you feel like some of the parents who would have been ringing up, like I'm just thinking about Grubber's mum, or some of the parents that were phoning up to check in on their lad. Taff always tells me the story about phoning Grubber's mum and letting her know that he was doing okay. And I'm sure you've had that.
I think I probably spoke to Grubber's mum and dad more in that first couple of years than he did. Still remember them fondly. But the amount of parents I spoke to routinely was crazy. Some for good reasons, some for terrible reasons, but that was part of my job at a point. And as a parent now, you can see why they're worried, and they feel like they've lost control of the situation. By the same token, I think that comes back to trust you place in yourself at how you've raised your kids. And I think we're all hopeful, and I could get off of this podcast and find out one of my sons has done something completely stupid. But I trust how we have raised our kids, and that they are, not going to make the right decision every time, but they're at least going to be able to recognize what is the right and the wrong decision, and it will stand them in good stead.
All right. So as the lads get older, has your definition of success shifted more towards the boys and family and presence than achievements?
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly. When you are yourself, you're thinking about how am I going to change the world, and then you get married and think, how are we going to change this world? And then you have kids and you're like, oh, screw that. Who gives a shit about me? How are they going to change the world? And that is definitely my perspective now. And I'd like to think of myself as quite a young 53, but I completely am focused on how my two kids can impact the world and the next generation after that. But I'm also, professionally, I'm thinking about all the kids that we coach and how they can change the world, and I don't know if that's maturity or if that's old age, but you start placing an emphasis and a faith in the next generation and how they're going to do things, and worrying less about yourself.
So if Max said to you tomorrow, I'm going to France, how much of you would be excited for and how much would you be terrified?
Honest to God, 100% would be excited for. Yeah.
Same as you would, I suppose, for any of the lads on your teams, wouldn't it? Like if they say they're going to go and do this.
Exactly. And that's born out of experience. That's not just me being flippant. The first time I dropped my, Aiden at university, that was a big moment. And the first time, Max has traveled on his own to Europe and Aiden's been to Scotland. My kids are very well traveled now. So that's why it's 100% excitement. But first time, it's definitely, it's woo. Yeah. Because that is a big moment. But again, I'm fortunate in so much as I've got my own experience to draw on. I knew, like my mum will tell you when you speak to her, she's like, yeah, he's only going to America for 6 months, Yeah, she says it all the time. And, that was in 1995. I've done it, so I know it can be done. And hopefully my kids are better prepared for the world than I ever was, because you want your kids to be.
What do people really need to know, young lads or young people who are moving abroad? Like what would be the one piece of advice that you would give them when they arrive in a new place? And it might not even be another country, might it? It might just be like a new job or go to a different state or a different part of the country.
2 pieces of advice I would give. Firstly is find your support structure, because you ain't going to be able to do it all yourself, whether you're going down the road or whether you're going across the pond. And the second thing is I would tell them is to take on board feedback that you're given, because you are not going to know it all. And one of the reasons you're traveling is because you're going into a new experience to learn new things. So if you could accelerate that learning by listening to people who've done it, then do that. Don't be so stubborn that you think you know it all.
Yeah, it's fair. When you talk about your ma there as well, right? And the way that she thinks that, you're only gone for 6 months and you'll be back soon for a cup of tea. Has living abroad or being over here for so long, has it changed your relationship with England at all?
Definitely.
In what way?
I appreciate England, Great Britain, really, Europe, much more now than I did when I was living there. And it's the nuance, it's the small things, the non-league footy is a great example.
Yeah, true.
The snacking, the friends, the sitting around, the going down the pub, etc. It's all, you can find equivalents over here, but you can't find the same thing. It's not home. It's not where you grew up. And I've lived in this country way longer than I lived in the UK, but it's still home and it will be home. And I actually find myself telling my British friends, my friends who I grew up with, appreciate this, appreciate that. You'll miss it when you don't have it, because of my experience of being over here. And most of them are mad and like, yeah, let's get to New York City. I want to go and see Broady or Batesy, as I'm called back home. And I'm like, yeah, but you're always welcome. But when you're back home, appreciate this, that, and the other. And I'm way more appreciative of the UK now than I was when I was living there.
I've started noticing it last couple of years, especially when the weather's nice.
When it's
best
nice.
place in the world.
Yeah.
Best place in the world. So what do you think America does better than back home, England, Ireland, Scotland, when it comes to youth sports?
So in a youth sports Well, I think in general, not youth sports related, America does ambition better than Europe.
Most people, yeah.
Blind
ambition sometimes as well.
Blind ambition, yes, but a desire and or a certainty that people know they can succeed here. And I love that. And it's one of the things that's attracted me to stay here. In terms of the youth sports world, I mentioned earlier about the investment in facilities, the infrastructure. It's unreal. The other thing that, I quite like over here is the college route. Back home, you can't move for someone who's at a story of, I almost made it, but I didn't, and now I'm on the scrappy. The 99.9% of people who aren't professional footballers are blaming that, because they dropped out of school when they were 16. Now, I actually quite like the fact that you can become a high level and an almost pro athlete over here, but still get your degree and go into something. And I understand the restriction on elite level sport that places, but I do think that that's a good route for 99.9% of the people.
Yeah, no. I see a lot of money going into sports at home as well now. Like, the pay-to-play thing never used to be a thing at home.
Mm-hmm. Pluses for the European model, and back home, it's way more affordable to play sport, and there's great opportunity at a low cost, which over here, we definitely need to crack that now.
Yeah. So after all of it, mate, what do you think the US gave you as a person outside of everything?
So no, I actually wrote down everything. But it did. It gave me an opportunity, firstly, which needed taking.
Yeah.
It wasn't a gift, it was an opportunity, and I'm quite hardworking. I'm very stubborn, and I think those two things helped me grasp that opportunity. It gave me a career that I'm now sitting more towards the end of than the beginning. Gave me a family. It gave me a life. But I also wrote, as an asterisk to that question, it's given me everything, but it also didn't give me anything. Do you know what I mean? Nothing was given. When we first came out here, it was fucking hard work. We had to take it, and if we didn't, someone else would have, and someone else not as sharp, but who worked a little bit harder, would have benefited. So it's kind of like it's given me everything, but it hasn't. The best answer to that is it's given me an opportunity, and the hard work and the sacrifice and everything else we talked about is what
got me
over the line, or got me not even over the line. It got me to the line, and then over it.
You've got to take it, haven't you? So
you do.
I've talked to a couple of people about this, and I think it's very underrated. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit anyway, but it's kind of undervalued that you've give a lot of people a similar opportunity in the sense that you've give people the tools to be out here, whether it's a visa, whether it's an education, whether it's advice or whatever it is. But how does it make you feel when you reflect on what you and the rest of your early colleagues at UK Elite have done for that 3,000 or 4,000 people out with a couple of, randoms,
couple of bennies,
a couple of absolute whoppers. But how do you reflect on that? The fact that you've done so much for so many different people, that ultimately is your lot's legacy, UK Elite, Steel, whatever it is now at this point.
No, for me, beyond my two sons, it's the proudest thing I've ever done. It's professionally, it's the biggest impact that I could have had. I was never going to be a player that everyone remembered. I was never going to be a coach that everyone remembered. But to have this, and I know it's an overused phrase, to have this coaching tree that literally touches every corner of the world and every job in every corner of the world is ultimately what gives me the most satisfaction. I know that in my own infinitely small way, I have changed the world. We have changed the world through what we've done. And that makes you very proud. You've got people like Dave Adams, the technical director of the Welsh FA, but you've also got, Nicole Farley, who's coaching at West Ham Women. You've got people in Australia running coaching companies. You've got, Gary Adair doing a fantastic podcast, and the list goes on. But not only do I feel like we've had an impact, but I also hear from these people, and social media, call it what you will, the connectivity is so much better now. But I hear from these people literally on a daily basis about, where I am now. And that's fantastic. And it drives me on. It helps me justify everything I've done, because I know, like you say, I've not been the reason anybody succeeded, but I've been a catalyst in helping them succeed.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's kind of, warms the heart.
I'd agree with that, Broads. I'd give you that one. Definitely.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Think nothing of it. All right, okay, last one. So England, America, the coaching, the leadership, fatherhood. I mean, I know there's an obvious answer in there, but what part of that, what chapter has changed you the most? Every single one of them has at different moments. Like you said before, it's a slow burner. It's not like
It is a slow burner, but I think every one of those stages has changed me. But more than that, every one of those stages has taught me that I can make conscious change in myself. So people who knew me in high school didn't recognize me when I came back from university. They were like, holy shit, what happened to you? Because I made the conscious change to become more outgoing, to become more social, to become a bit more in your face. And then when I came to America, I made the conscious decision to adopt what I thought was endearing in American people and bring it into my life. Do you know what I mean? So I think the answer to your question is no one moment has had the biggest impact, but every moment has taught me enough to impact myself. And for me, that's life, isn't it? You can either sit still and never change and never evolve, or you can learn from every one of your experiences to make as close to a complete human being as you either can be or want to be. So I think, I've made conscious decisions to change, but it's based on the experiences I've had.
And you said it there, you're coming to the end of your career, or not the end, but you're getting that end. What's the future hold for Andy Broadbent? More traveling?
Yes, is the answer to that. More traveling. I would love to see Steel Sports become, just as we talked about that teetering on the brink where UK Elite went from being a good regional company to a good national company. I would love to be involved with Steel Sports when it goes from being a significant US-based company to an international company. Can we do more stuff in Mexico? Can we do more stuff in Japan and South Korea? Can we do more stuff in Europe? And what part can I play in that? But also, I never like to look too far ahead. I've always been, people make fun of me because I live in the moment too much. But I think that's a conscious decision, and I like to be present. I like to be in the moment, and I don't like to think too far ahead, but I do like to trust myself that whatever the future brings, I'll be able to deal with it and hopefully succeed in it as well.
Yeah, no sound. Bros, that was class. It's good, mate. I fired through everything, I think.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
But
it's a good job.
No, I appreciate it. No, you answered them really, really well as well. Look at you. Proper. But I'm going to do quick fires though.
Oh, mate, I've been looking forward to the quick fires.
I've got a few. I was some easy ones,
yes.
But I've also had a little bit of input as well. So there's a couple of
some outside influence.
Some bit of outside influence. All right, I'll start easy on you.
Yeah.
Favorite dinosaur?
Stegosaurus.
Questionable. Controversial. That.
Well,
doesn't do much. Little head.
No, takes me back to an art project in junior school though.
Fair enough.
So if you're gonna lean anyway, lean.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not here to judge on this. I'm just asking. I'll add it to the list.
Okay.
All right. Crystal chocolate.
This is maybe the toughest question I've faced all day, but chocolate.
Particular.
Dairy milk, obviously the go-to. Galaxy, very close second. Other one on the podium would be Maltesers, but in the chocolate bar form, not the.
Oh, that is controversial. You can't do that thing with it.
Yeah.
But
I consider myself an industry leader on chocolate. Yeah.
Fair. All right. One footy stadium that you'd still like to go to?
So I went there earlier this year, the Bombonera in Buenos Aires,
Doesn't
Argentina.
count. Which one do you want to go to?
But it's still the one I want to go to because I want to see a game there. I went when it was not in action. So that's
when it's bouncing.
When it's literally shaking. That would be
that's fair.
Up there.
That's fair. All right. What are you singing on a karaoke?
Controversial, I think, given my background and upbringing, but Redemption Song, Bob Marley.
Interesting.
And I'd like to think people are pleasantly surprised.
Is there any relevance to Stevenage though?
No, none whatsoever. Anyone who's ever been to Stevenage will know there's zero culture.
All right. One TV show that if it comes on the telly, no matter how many times you've seen it, you have to leave it on.
There's a couple. Sopranos would be up there.
Fair.
Probably The In-Betweeners.
Also fair.
And then probably be and I'm going to throw in Breaking Bad as well.
That's decent. All right. One Olympic sport that you definitely think you could do on minimal training?
Only partially tongue-in-cheek here, but downhill skiing.
Those knees?
That wasn't in the question.
Okay, fair enough.
But
if you
I
had healthy
consider myself a good skier, and I think I've got enough girth to create the momentum that's necessary.
Please don't ever say girth or momentum to me ever again. All right. I've asked a few people.
Yeah.
What was it about Dave Prager that made you that made him your best hire? That was from Dave Prager.
Controversial. I'm going to say the boyish good looks, the generous demeanor, and of course the hair.
Nothing to do with height, averaging out the height differential of me or Ralphie.
Between the two of us, me and Dave, made one average height human.
Okay, this is from Ralphie.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if it's going to make the cut, but how did you manage to pretend to like Craigo for 25 years?
It's a great question.
This is Kaiser Soze level dedication.
No, and I actually I get on very well with Craig. Always have, always will. In fact, Craigo was literally my first night off the boat. Roommate, we shared a bedroom for a good long while. So, everyone who knows Craigo knows he can be hard work at times, but if you don't get on with him as a roommate, then you screw it up.
Yeah, you are knackered, yeah. I might leave that in, actually. I was expecting a more controversial answer. All right, this is from Sonny Young. Did you steal as many Reebok trainers as he did? Because apparently he raided that house in Peapack.
No, that Sonny Young he's up there with one of the top tea leaves in UK elite history. Probably top 5 in terms of Southerners, but he's not even close to Gareth Chittix, who literally kifed stuff on his first day with us. If you're listening, Shy Talk, you know it's true.
All right. If you've never come to the US, what would you be doing now? That's from Dean Simpson. Very sensible.
Dean is a wise and educated man. And the answer to that is I have zero idea. And if I hadn't come to the US, I would have ended up somewhere else other than England, but I don't know where.
Fair enough. All right. This is another question. What was it about the 2004 staff that just made them better? That was from Bob Gibson, Toby Stupples, Andy Ralphs, Dave Prager, Dean Simpson, James Thompson, Jason Grubb, Graham Rennie, and me.
I think you've answered your own question there by listing the individuals involved. I mean, I know it's a phrase we used often, but best staff ever. There.
Correct answer. Well done. And the last answer is who's going to win the World Cup?
I'm torn between Spain or France. And I think most people will lean France because of the quality of their squad. But I'm going to say Spain with youthful exuberance.
Fair enough. Brody, nice one, mate.
What
appreciate that.
Hey, mate.
Really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Good man. Cool.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.